Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNeely. We are honoured to acknowledge General Humberto Oviedo Aragada, Commander-in-Chief, Chilean Army, and Lieutenant General Angus Campbell, Chief of Army Australia, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, St John Fisher Primary School of Tumbiumbi, Holy Cross Catholic School of Kincumber, St Bernard's Primary School of Botany, and from Victoria, Mother of God Primary School, Ardea. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Boys and girls, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Frederick Gladstone Wilson. Frederick Wilson was born on the 17th of August 1890, the second son of Frederick and Eleanor Wilson. He was born in Sale, Victoria. But when he was a little boy, his family moved to Albert Park in Melbourne, where he started school. They later moved to Port Melbourne, and the older boys in the family finished their schooling at Knott Street School. As a teenager, Frederick joined the Sale Squadron of the Australian Light Horse and proved to be a most able and zealous soldier, rising to prominence in the regiment. He became a commercial traveller like his older brother Beresford and moved to New South Wales. In 1913, Beresford was killed in Mossman Bay when he fell between a dinghy and a motorboat moored in the bay and sank in the rough water. Frederick Wilson continued his interest in the military while in New South Wales, serving with the Citizen Forces in the post of Captain Instructor. Frederick Wilson applied for a commission in the Australian Imperial Force in November 1914. He was posted to the rank of lieutenant and appointed to the 13th Battalion. The battalion left for overseas service in late December 1914. After a brief stop in Albany, Western Australia, it was proceeded to Egypt, arriving in early February 1915. Lieutenant Wilson continued training with the battalion in Egypt for several weeks before being sent to Gallipoli. The 13th Battalion sailed from Lemnos in the morning of the 25th of April 1915, several hours after the landing had started. They arrived off the peninsula that afternoon and began disembarking under fire from about 9:30 p.m. By 5 a.m. on the 26th of April, the 13th Battalion was in position at the head of the Monash Valley. That same day, Lieutenant Frederick Wilson was killed in action. No record of the manner of his death remains, but it appears he was buried nearby. The exact location of his grave is unknown, but he is thought to have been buried in Courtney and Steele's Post Cemetery on Gallipoli. There is a special memorial to him in that cemetery, which reads, "He died in defence of his country, sadly missed." Frederick Wilson's brother Gilbert enlisted a few weeks after Frederick died and served in the 2nd Pioneer Battalion. He was on Gallipoli for several months before being sent to fight on the Western Front. After coming through the heavy fighting around Pozieres in July 1916, Corporal Gilbert Wilson was killed in action at Fleur in November of that year. In a little over 3 years, the Wilson family had lost their 3 eldest sons, 2 in service of their country. Beresford drowned at the age of 25. Both Frederick and Gilbert were 24 when they were killed in action. Frederick and Gilbert's names are listed on the honour roll on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant Frederick Gladstone Wilson and his brother, Corporal Gilbert Glyneth Wilson, who gave their lives for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.